All right, so a couple lessons ago we talked about square roots, and today we're going to talk about cube roots. Now remember, when we solve for square roots, we use prime factorization to break down the factors of each root into smaller roots, and then we work down until we either got the square root or had a bunch of prime roots. And then we tried to pair up the prime roots, and we realized that if we pair them up, if they were the same root, that it was the same thing as squaring them, which canceled out the square root. Now for cube roots, it's the same idea. Okay, so you would be able to break it down into prime factors or factors, except now we're looking at cube roots. So instead of finding pairs of prime factors, we're going to be looking for triplets of prime factors. Well, as much as I would love to have you work on that, we're actually going to do something a little bit more fun. I know that the process in the beginning is going to be kind of tedious, but it'll be worth it in the end. And I think you guys will have fun with this. So if you go to the website, psychicscience.org/Cubert, it's going to bring you here. It says instant calculation of cube roots. Amaze your friends. So this is going to be for perfect cube numbers. Okay, find cube roots of perfect cube numbers. Now if you scroll down, you're going to hit step 1. It says learn the cubes of 0 to 9. So that means that we have the numbers 0 through 9. This is what they are cubed. 0 times 0 times 0 gives me 0. 1 times 1 times 1 gives me 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27, so on and so forth. Now, if you look at this table, you'll notice not only does it give you the number, it gives you what the number is cubed, but it also gives the last digit of the cubed form. Okay, so if I cube 3, I get 27, whose last digit is 7. Okay, that's why that's right here. Same thing here, 4 cubed is 64. Its last digit is 4. 5 cubed is 125, the last digit is 5. 6 cubed is 216, last digit is 6. Okay, I want you to look at this table. You're actually going to memorize this. Most of it's not hard. You guys know 1 cubed should be 1. Most of you know that 2 cubed is 8. Most of you know that 3 cubed is 27. Some of you know that 4 cubed is 64. And then from 5 up, 5 through 9, it's not that hard to figure out, right? So what I do want you to know is, though, what happens at 3 versus 7 and 8 versus 2. Okay, notice that when I cube 3, it gives me a ones digit of 7. If I cube 7, it gives me a ones digit of 3. Same thing with 2. I cube 2, it gives me a ones digit of 8. And if I cube 8, it gives me a ones digit of 2, because it's 512, right? So those are the only 4 numbers that don't have the last digit the same. 1 cubed gives me a last digit of 1. 4 cubed gives me 4. 0 cubed gives me 0. I forgot that one. 5 cubed gives me a 5 as the last digit. 6 cubed gives me 6 as my last digit. And then 9 cubed gives me 9 as my last digit. Okay? But these 4, 2, 3, 7, and 8, they actually swap. 3 and 7 swap, and 8 and 2 swap. Okay? So, memorize this. You might want to write it out. Figure this out. The next part's going to be interesting. So we get step 2. Step 2 says to determine the cube root. Let's say that I give you the cube root of 185,193. Here's what you're going to do. It doesn't matter which one you do first. Here on the website, they tell you to ignore the last 3 digits. So I'm going to ignore 193, and I'm only going to look at 185. Okay, 185. Now I'm going to think about my table. What cubed, hopefully you wrote down the table, otherwise you're going to have to scroll back up. What cubed gives me the closest value to 185 without being bigger or greater than 185. Okay, if I look at my table, I'm looking for 185. Nothing cubed is 185. But if I look here at 5, I have 125, which is pretty close. And then I have 216. And 216 is too big. Okay, so I'm going to go with 5. This is going to give me my tens digit of my answer, okay, to my cube root. This 5 is my tens digit, or my first digit of my answer. Now I'm going to look at the last 3 digits. 193. Well, what does this end with? This ends with a 3, right? My last digit ends with a 3. Well, what cubed gives me a ones digit of 3? Let's look back up here. 1 gives me 1, 2 gives me 8, 3 gives me 7, so on, so on. 7 gives me a ones digit of 3. So that is going to be my ones digit of my answer. 7 is going to be the ones digit of my answer. So now I just figured out 5 is my tens digit, 7 is my ones digit. So the cube root of 185,193 is 57. Let's try this again, okay? Let's say we want to find the cube root of 438,976. This time I'm going to do it the other way around. Well, what's my ones digit? My ones digit of what I'm getting the cube root of is 6. Well, what cubed gives me a ones digit of 6? Looking back up here. 6 gives me a ones digit of 6 when I cube it, right? Because it's 216. So my ones digit of my answer is 6. Now I'm going to ignore the last 3 digits, pretend those aren't there, and I'm looking at 438. Well, what cubed gives me a number closest to 438, because I know nothing cubed is 438, without exceeding or going over 438? Let's look. 438 is what I'm looking for. 7 cubed is 343. That's below 438. 8 cubed is 512. That, unfortunately, is above 438. Okay? So my tens digit of my answer is going to be 7. So we got 7 and we got 6, so my answer is 76. The cube root of 438,976 is 76. Now, if you want to practice, you can. Here's a few examples. You can study this table. Here's the fun part, and I think I showed this to some of you. I know 1 or 2 periods saw me do this when I told you that we were going to solve cube roots. If you click this button, it says Get Spectator's Call. You're going to have to find the cube root of 389,017. Now remember, look at the last digit. It's 7. What cube gives me a 7? 3, right? So that means that my ones digit of my answer has to be a 3. So something in this column. Something in this column. Now I'm going to ignore these last 3 digits, and I'm only going to look at 389. Well, what cubed gets really close to 389? Because I know nothing cubed is actually 389. What gets close to 389 without going over 389? 7, right? Because 7 cubed gives me 343. So my answer is 73. You can try that again. 571,787. My ones digit is a 7. Well, what cube gives me a 7? I already figured this out. It was a 3. So my ones digit of my answer is going to be a 3. And then I'm going to look at 571. Well, what cubed gives me something close to 571 or equal to 571, as long as I'm not getting bigger than 571? The answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, is 8, because 8 cubed is 512. So my answer is 83. So you can do this however long you want. This is a great way to practice. I'm only going to give you perfect cubes to work on, so don't worry too much about this. This is going to be your practice. This is going to be what you're going to use to review cube roots with. Figure this would be a little bit of fun. If you really want to have fun with it, show your parents. Tell them that you can find any cube root between 0 and 1,000,000, and you can do this with them. In fact, I've had a few classes bet their parents that they could do it and get $1 or more per answer. So if you want to do that, go for it. Anyways, all right, have fun with this. Look at it. I know it seemed like a lot, but it's really not. It's just 3 steps. Understand the table. So you're going to memorize the cubes, and then the strategy of understanding what cube gives me a ones digit. That's the last digit of whatever I'm finding the cube root of, and then blocking out the last 3 digits and figuring out what cubed is equal to, or slightly less, but closest to whatever's in front of the last 3 digits. Okay? All right, guys, thanks. If you have any questions, as always, let me know.